Good morning, everyone. Very happy to see all of you. It's a pleasure that you could join us all on a Saturday morning. Saturday morning that promises to be extremely delightful, engaging, and open some new avenues and reading for all of us. Today in the webinar, you're seeing me. I'm Aditi, and I lead the content and training at Stones to Milestones. And with me is Jagruti Gala. She's an avid reader, an educator, runs incredibly unique schools and charities, and is a master when it comes to talking about the science of reading. And we're so excited to have her with us. Uh, she's a wonderful mentor to a lot of us as well. So that's a special connection that we share. And just to kind of take you through the rules of this webinar, we're about to start soon. On your screens at the bottom, you will be able to see uh, a section that says participants. Over there, you'll be once you scroll down, you'll be able to see an option which is raise hand. If you'd like to ask anything, please click on that option and we will address your question. Also, on the chat as you join, please please share your name, the organization you belong to, and uh, just what reading means to you in one word. We look forward to reading that. Thank you, Anuradha. It's wonderful to hear that. For all the new attendees, welcome. We're starting with a quick check-in question. On your chat, please share your name, where you work, and in one word, what reading means to you. On this webinar, you can see me, I'm Aditi, and our special guest speaker for the day is Ms. Jagruti Gala. Thank you all for joining, and welcome to all the new attendees. We'll be starting the webinar in the next couple of minutes. I'm loving what all of you are sharing about reading and what reading means to you. Please keep that flowing. For all those who have just joined, on this webinar, you can see me, Aditi, and with me is our speaker of the day, Ms. Jagruti Gala. And we're looking forward to hearing from you about what reading means to you in one word. Please share that with us along with your name and where you work. Please share it in the chat. We are joined with the group that is joining us is a wonderful, diverse, incredible bunch of people. Thank you all so much. You will be able to interact with each other in the chat option here. Just to reinforce, if you have a question, please use the raise hand option and we'll get back to you shortly. We're about to start in a minute or so. For all those who've just joined in, this is Aditi from Stones to Milestones, and with me is our speaker of the day, Ms. Jagruti Gala, who's going to talk to us about the magic of reading, the beauty of reading, and how it is such a crucial factor in enabling academic achievement in our children. Please introduce yourself, your name, where you work, and what reading means to you in one word in the chat option. We're about to start in a few seconds. It's so wonderful to see what everybody's writing. You know, for people, reading is joy, adventure, passion, magic, something that enhances our vocabulary, something that causes us to explore, brings awareness about different things, endless growth. It's a personal favorite. Self empowerment is incredible. It's you know, it's going to be so exciting, and I believe we're ready to start.
Hi, Aditi, can you hear me? Aditi, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. And shall we begin?
Yes, I think we're all looking forward to it.
Okay, lovely. So, very, very, very warm welcome to everyone. First of all, I want to express my gratitude for two things. One is I want to express my gratitude for all you lovely, passionate people who want to take some time off on Saturday to connect to the cause of learning and to gather together to hear some of our thoughts on this. The other is I'm just so grateful to technology. It's fantastic what is possible now. You know, we've had people from different countries of the world who wanted to register for this. I'm super excited. I'm hoping that some of them are already on the chat, but I'm trying not to look at that too much so I don't get distracted. So I'm Jagriti, and I'm here, and I'm celebrating this moment that we're getting a chance this time to share some of our passion with you. So today's topic is connecting the dots between reading and academic achievement. And before we even do that, you know, I want to bring something to our awareness. So if we have been following what we all have been writing in chat, to me, it seems like the webinar is over before it even begins. Right, Aditi? I mean, what is it that we can add already to the wisdom that exists in the group? Nothing. Yeah. Nothing that we can say can be more than what you all already know. Nothing can be greater than the passion you contain in your hearts. And yet we are here. And so that curious phenomenon is something that I want to address as part of our call. And what I want to say is that there is something about common sense and about our instinctive knowing that we seem to have left behind and which we don't pay attention to as educators. I have yet to meet in all these years, you know, for the past 15 years, I have been working seriously in the field of education, and I have yet to meet a teacher or a parent who will say, it's not important for children to learn to read. I have also yet to meet or yet to see that day where more than 90% of them are saying, and of course we're doing that. In fact, maybe only 10% are actually seriously attending to encouraging that. 90% people will say it's a challenge. We know it's hugely important and it's a challenge. And the next question we have is how to make children read. So this encapsulates this phenomenon, which is not just belonging or restricted to India. It's a worldwide phenomenon. And there are just multitude of reasons, which I am not going to go into, because today's webinar, we want to make it very precise. I do not want to say things that we all already know and are aware of. We are not here to complain. We are here to look at what's possible, and we are here to gather together and energize each other. Right. So I love that concept of satsang that we have in Indian culture, where when you are on any kind of a learning path for your own growth and development, what is very important that in any aspect of your life, it need not be, it's a word that comes from our spiritual tradition, but it can be connected to just about anything that when the company of like-minded souls
Mm.
creates a vibration that, sorry, just a minute. Yeah. Being with like-minded souls in satsang energizes, strengthens the work that we already want to do. We all know about having marathon running buddies, right? You have a running buddy, you kind of get there faster. You have an exercise buddy, you do that. You have somebody to go shopping with, there's just that much chance of getting that done faster. So we want to create a forum where we can come together and create solutions for this massive gap that exists together. So let me start about how it started for me. Several years ago, I was doing nothing except the most beautiful thing I've done on earth, which is being a mother. I was a full-time mother to two rambunctious young boys. And while I loved everything about how they were growing up, the one thing that kept rankling me was that they didn't take to reading the way I was passionate about it. If I read it out to them, they're most happy and they would listen for hours. But I didn't see them really become involved and pick up books. And part of it was also because of the state where we live in, where English is used only possibly in school and only by the teacher. The children talk in I'm in Gujarat. So many children use Gujarati to speak among themselves. And at home also, it was very important for me to speak in the mother tongue to my children. And so there was very little use of English. So all in all, somehow with English being a more complex language and maybe their propensity as boys being more towards activity, a lot of things, but their ability to read, especially because it was not encouraged in school in a very systematic way, their ability to read had a gap between them and children who are in the metros and then children who are in international different countries of the world. Anyway, I discovered all this after my child had entered, when he was in grade 4 and 5, they have these diagnostic tests. And he had applied, and participated in the test from Australia. And then there was this educational initiatives asset, which we did from India. And in both those tests, I was a little disappointed at the scoring because all the conceptual questions in science and in math and in others, I was very confident that he knew what the answer was, but he didn't know what the question was. He didn't really decode the question properly. He didn't understand it well. And therefore, he couldn't figure what is being asked. If you don't know what is being asked, you obviously will not be able to come up with what you do know as the answer to that. So that got me thinking, and that was where my common sense kicked in. That was where, without any background, just being a mother, I was not an educator at that time, I just knew that the reason my child didn't score as much as he could have is because he was not able to decode the complex language and understand what was really being asked. After that, I had the good fortune of starting out on my educational journey. I was beginning to educate myself how to go forward and make a difference in the way children learn. It was my passion. And one of the first people I met was Sridhar of EI. And that was when Asset was probably in its second year. And I clearly remember that meeting and sitting across in that small EI office. And I was telling him that, this is my intuition, this is my understanding, that the questions are worded in a way that many children may not be able to decode them. And therefore, I wonder about about whether this test really measures children's ability. So there's so much to the science of assessment, which I now know, which says that even beyond this, we can really capture. And I do think that several educators have agreed with that instinctive understanding that a mother had, that it's important for children to be able to read well, which means be able to read to make meaning, be able to read to analyze, be able to read to synthesize, to read to make complexity simple in their minds, so that they can then engage with the question. And why am I saying on all of this? Because today we are talking about academic achievement. There are a million other reasons why I want children to read more. But today we are focusing on academic achievement, which is also something very core to our hearts. So with this story, I wanted to share that it is not take rocket science to really, it's a simple fact. If children read better, they do better. And there's a chance of them doing better. It's not a certainty, but it's a very high probability. What the research shows is that not all children who read well and who read with joy and pleasure and read extensively are necessarily great performers academically, but all children who are super achievers and great performers academically do show a propensity towards reading. They may or may not be, but most of them are extensive readers. Most of them do enjoy reading for pleasure. And most of them, even if they are not reading for pleasure, are very skilled readers. And this is a something that I'm going to also be sharing with you through bits of knowledge. But before that, let me pause a bit. Just allow a little bit to kind of sink in case there are parts of what I said that touch you, that you resonate with. I'd love for you to, put a high five on your chat so we know that this is reaching. In case this is something you are disconnected with, please feel free to put big question marks, a series of them, so we know. And the structure of the call is that for the next 15 minutes or so, I will be doing more sharing. I will be what we like to call a download. And I'm appreciative that everybody would be listening, but I'd like to share some information, some statistics. And then we'd like to open up the forum. We'd like to take in some comments, some questions. Part of my sharing will be that we'd like to focus on, so now that we've talked about the common sense, we are now going to also talk about research. We are going to talk about the fact that when the world ignores what we ought to be knowing and what is simple, we as a human species love to make things complex. And so we take this simple fact and we open it up. And because teachers all over the world are finding less and less time for whatever reasons, and there are several reasons, systemic reasons, to include direct, systematic, encouraging, silent, nourishing time for reading, because the time for exclusively set aside for reading has gone down. Children are reading less, which is creating a lot of issues across not only their academics, but their empathy, their ability to engage with the world, their ability to lead a successful life, even in terms of what they need to do in everyday life functions, and their ability to be by themselves. So reading impacts us at our cognitive functions. It impacts us in our emotional lives, in our psychological lives, in our community lives, and in our spiritual lives. And while it is not the answer for everything, the ability to be able to read with pleasure and with meaning becomes a very, very strong foundation for us to lead a rich life. So we will be sharing some, I will share slides on a share screen where we will talk about some research on this. And we will also talk about what a good reading classroom can look like. We'd like to share 2 or 3 tips about, small things that you could start doing immediately. And then we'll open it up for questions and comments coming in from all of you. Okay. So I'm going to do a share screen now and pull out a PPT. Okay, here we go. So this is us. This is our passion. And I'm going to pause because I know that sometimes the beaming takes time and there can be a lag, especially if I'm moving my cursor. So Aditi, I'd like a clue from you if it shows up well.
Yes, it does, Jagrati. It's great.
Okay, thank you. So here we are, creating a nation of readers. This is our mission. We have been on this mission for the past 9 years. And for the past 7 years, we have been exclusively on this mission. We believe it is going to be one of the greatest gifts that we as an organization can contribute not only to India, but also to the world. But right now we are very focused on India because this is a kind of a pioneering work that is happening in our country. In fact, when we started this work 9 years ago and to date, we still need to rely on secondary research, on research that has been done in other countries, in developed nations, in the UK, in Finland, in Japan, in America, Singapore, because we do not have a great body of research which has been done in India, but we are changing that. We are seriously into starting to create a base, and which will take a few years to do that. But as we go along, I will also share some bits from what we have found from our first attempts at research. One of the things I'd like to bring to everyone's notice is that there are 2 aspects to reading. One is the skill of reading, which is very important, especially when we are wanting to learn English, because English has certain structures and formats as a language which are not systematic or not regular. They need special, so we all know that BUT is but and PUT is put. And this is very common phenomenon with very, very different aspects of English. So we definitely need to explicitly and systematically build the skill of decoding in children, build a large vocabulary for them, help them become aware of the relationships between sounds and the graphics, help them to be able to be more fluent through different exercises, and finally equip them with, strategies for comprehension, so that when they are faced with new text, which they have not seen ever in their life, they have an arsenal of tools and skills that they can apply and they can make sense of it. And one of those strategies is as simple as asking somebody. It's as simple as that, but it's a skill. To be able to ask someone, can you help me understand this word? Another very simple thing is looking up a dictionary. A third one might be that you discuss it. A fourth one might be that, okay, from these 10 words that I'm reading, 5 or 6 are making sense to me. There's a picture here that gives me some clues. Can I pull out something from my background knowledge and struggle with this a little more so I can make sense of it? These things good readers do automatically. They do it by design. I did it. You all are doing it. But we can't leave that to chance. We need to teach many more than the ones who will automatically become good readers. So our invitation as part of our mission is to invite all you educators to make conscious, explicit space in your structure, especially in the early years, from nursery to class 3. This is the window within which reading skills are acquired. So there is a whole systematic way to teach children to read, and more about that on other webinars that we hope to host. Skill is not enough. Everything on this world, I believe, and that's a generalization which comes from my passion, everything works because you feel inspired to do it. There is a human endeavor that pushes everything ahead. And so we want a bunch of, or a world of children who not only are skilled and they know how to, decode, and they're very fluent, they're also excited. They can't wait. They can't go to sleep without reading at least one paragraph. They meet each other in the bus, and among everything that they want to talk about, they at least want to refer to something they read the previous day. When they're signing an agreement in their life where they're making a big deal, with somebody else and clinching a business deal, they want to be able to read the fine print. They want to be able to know what a cancellation of a ticket will cost them. So these are all the different things that we want to do, and it's a long path, and we need all of you on it. So who is a happy reader? Very simple. A happy reader is somebody who reads for their own pleasure. Reading is its own reward. A happy reader is somebody who consciously reads for purpose. You cannot read if there is no meaning, if there is no relevance. Beyond pleasure, what else is reading giving you? Maybe it is helping you grow. Maybe it is soothing you in that moment. Maybe it is helping you connect and able to understand what somebody else is saying. How many of us have an experience of not having read an email properly and had a conflict with our colleague or a customer or a parent? So reading for purpose and reading to learn and participate in the world at various levels, whether it is functional for your own survival or creative for contribution to the world's growth. The Department of Education in America say there are 7 main benefits of reading for pleasure. I'm going to read them out even though you are able to read it. There is a connection between reading attainment and writing ability. In fact, in our country, there has been a kind of a severing of the cord between this. And we are focusing more on the latter and less on the former, simply because of the way our board exams are constituted. Although this is rapidly changing, and good educators know that this is changing, but still a huge, I would say, a generation and at least 2 generations have suffered because of our focus on the writing ability, without strengthening their connection to reading. So there's a connection between reading for pleasure and being able to write well. I am a completely 110% case for this, case in point, because my early world was all about reading. And today I often get told that not only writing, that I have an ability to speak well, express myself, and all of that. I would just be very, very grateful to the love for reading that my parents inculcated in me, and how it just came more and more into my life. When we read for pleasure, we are also able to comprehend text better, and we imbibe grammar. I never understood why grammar needs to be taught, ever. And when I was in school, in ICSE board, grammar was taught from grade 6 onwards. And none of us have any problem. We are in fact very good with what we do. So as an educator, I am so super against bringing grammar in a dry form in class 1 and not being able to connect it. But if children read widely, the grammar part gets taken off. Of course, a breadth of vocabulary. I saw within the comments somebody talking about that they're on this call because They think that reading brings a wide range of vocabulary. And why should we have a wide vocabulary? Because vocabulary gives you power. And why does it give you power? Because if you have the right word, you can put your expression very accurately to somebody else. That is the only reason that we want a wide vocabulary. We can understand when people communicate, and we can express ourselves with accuracy. And people who can understand others and express themselves, they develop a very natural inner confidence, and they get more space in the world. Positive reading attitudes, greater self-confidence, general knowledge, be in touch with, one of the things I might confess here is I was never one for general knowledge. I'm very introverted. I like in the inner world. Newspapers disturb me, although I'm a trained journalist. And these days, for the past 1 year, I've not been ordering newspapers. And I do find myself at a disadvantage in company oftentimes, because news come to me later, and I have to rely on my Facebook reading to pick up on big world events that are happening. Of course, I'm going to change that soon. It gives us a wider, deeper, better, more empathic understanding of other cultures, and an increased community participation. We've all heard of armchair travel. You can sit in your armchair, and now not only books, you're reading on Facebook, you're reading pictures on Instagram, and you're reading short cryptic messages on Twitter. So social media has changed our world. Google has changed our world. There is just so much available. This is beyond books. So I want to qualify that. One is about reading books. The other is just reading the written word. And what we are here for is to enable children to read the written world better. And of course, a greater insight into human nature and decision making. Self-help books are the highest grossing of all kinds of publications that are sold in our world. And that is proving this point. People want to be better, and they're willing to, when you can read well, you have access. So most of all, reading gives you access to a lot of the world that was close to you. Now, from all of those, let's come to something that matters to us as a school and in our field. If children are not reading at grade level proficiency, the overall quality of education in schools, not just the child's performance, the overall quality of education in schools drops, and it gets impacted. There are 89% of students in India who are not proficient in reading literacy. And if they are enrolled in English medium schools, the challenge is even greater. If they are from disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds, the challenge is very great. Our communities, we don't have access to libraries, public libraries. Books are, there are just so many factors which I will not go into here. So, but this is the fact that this is happening. We have ranked second from bottom in the last PISA that we attended, and then we boycotted it because we didn't want to show up in that way. But that was a shame, because we actually should have persisted. And now we are glad that the government has decided to go ahead for PISA, and we're going to be taking it in 2021, if I have the date right. And we at Stones to Milestones are taking it very seriously. We want to equip schools and children to become PISA ready as much as we can in this span of time. So one is what happens in the education, and the other is the impact on our life. More than 60% of proficient readers have jobs in management, while basic readers don't get that. And if you are applying for CAT and GMAT and other entrance exams where you have to do complex decoding in order to be able to show your understanding, we have a very big disadvantage over there. while we're talking about reading systematically and teaching reading explicitly to help build the skill base, while it may not be possible, educators don't have ideas how to do that. Since we have spent so many years in what we can do in classrooms, we know that it can be a complex exercise, especially when English is a second language. So what is it that you can easily do? And even if you can't do anything, get kids to read for pleasure. And if you don't believe that common sense is true, here's a research that we want to share with you. This is just one of the studies. There are several others. A study was conducted by New York School of Social Research in a university in Texas with young adults. And very clearly, and we will be sharing a document with you where we will share these links. You can access them yourself. You can read up on it. But what showed up is that children who were, the young adults who were non-readers were, just a minute, I'm losing my screen. Hold on. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I lost my screen, my cursor went. So reading opens up worldwide avenues for knowledge, which non-readers are not able to access. Because they're not able to access that, it had a direct impact on the way they were able to engage with their history, math, and science exams. And if you go through that, they have got bars and bar graphs, which clearly show this. Pleasure readers, and especially pleasure readers who are in the honors group, they scored higher on all standardized tests in all subject areas, greater comprehension skills, increased fluency, and higher levels of general knowledge. 33% of 13-year-olds and 45% of 17-year-olds who reported that they read for pleasure no more than 1 or 2 times of the year had a drop in their academic achievement. The OECD findings of 2002 show that reading habits have more influence on educational attainment than socioeconomic status. It is very good news for us in our country if we are able to give people from disadvantaged backgrounds access to books and to training in reading. They will have a jump start in life, and their socioeconomic status will not keep them back. We have our leaders, Professor Ambedkar, Abdul Kalam, people who came from very, very humble backgrounds, but they rose to such positions simply because of this one avenue in their life. So 4,000 individuals were studied on an online poll. And when you read for pleasure, you have a greater sense of community, social inclusion, stronger social, ability to enjoy social occasions, and an enhanced openness and talkativeness. So what does a reading classroom look like? What if we all began to achieve this? And right now I'm still talking only about reading for pleasure. Students read a lot and they read often. The classroom has a wide variety of text types and topics to choose from. It's beyond just their academic books. They have, so I'm so much in favor of a class library, and a very simple thing is at the beginning of every year, each child contributes one book from their side, which they and their parents they buy. It can be a very simple budget. It can be worked out in a way that parents will not flip. You can give different children, a choice that you can buy a book of your choice and get a book from a genre that we suggest. If you have 40 children in your class, in term 1, you can easily have a library of 80 books, and the children are encouraged to do a systematic, these texts are engaging, they're compelling. Children choose them. You don't even have to take them to the library. This is just a cultural systematic thing that we can encourage right there in your space with the children in your English class. In a reading classroom, children read because reading is its own reward. And we do not test them. We don't have exercises on it. There are no questions. There are no dictionaries, but there are discussions. There is curiosity. There is a sharing. There is space created for children to come and share what it is that they enjoyed and they read about. Even 10 minutes devoted to this, 3 days out of 5, 10 minutes of discussion, conversation will create a spike. And you will see it. You will not need us to tell you anything. So we will be sharing this with you. I won't go through all the points because I'm aware that because I have the mic, I'm speaking a lot, and I also want to hear from all of you. The 1 point or 2 points that I want to share is a reading classroom, and these two actually I think we should have put at the top of the PPT. The reading teacher is a role model who herself is committed to reading, and she shows that commitment by reading extensively herself. Every day she reads. As an organization, as we are on this mission, we do read. We may not necessarily be reading at the pace that we want to and reading as much as we want to, but we have a checkpoint. We check in with each other. We have a book club. We share our reviews. Reading is part of our culture. We can't talk about it if we don't do it. So yeah, these are the rights of a reader. Love this. The right not to read. Yeah, that's the first thing. Give your children permission. Okay, we have these 80 books in the class. Pick them up when you feel like. Pick the one you want. Read as much of it as you want to. If you don't like it, leave it. Read it again and again and again. Read anything. If you don't understand, come and tell me. I will talk about it to you. Nothing is taboo. Do you think this is real life? Wow, yes, of course. Aladdin is true. He lives. You can read anywhere. I love reading in the bathroom. You have the right to dip in. Just dip in. You can read out loud. It's not moronic. You can read out silently. You don't have to share what you read. And don't make fun of others if they don't read. Just want to just allow you to soak this in. And invite you to join our mission. It's a mission. It needs a lot of people. I want to share my favorite story of Gandhiji. That when Gandhiji was new and he was gaining importance, and Jawaharlal Nehru was very drawn to him, and he was just spending a lot of time with him. So Nehruji's father, Motilal Nehru, was very concerned. Here his son, England educated, whole life ahead of him, so rich, going with this man and getting into all these ideas. And so one day he came to Gandhiji with a very, very humble request of a parent that I will give you all the wealth you want for your mission, but please let my son be. And Gandhiji looked at him and he said, not only do I want your son, sir, I want you, I want your wife, I want your daughter, I want everybody to join my mission. And that's when Motilalji understood the depth of what he was standing for. And that is what we are shamelessly here for. We're here to get you. Okay, that's enough of my voice. Thank you very much for allowing me this space. And over to Aditi and my team at S2M to guide with what voices are coming in.
Thank you so much, Jagrati. We can still see your screen.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you so much. It's been such a absorbing and engrossing kind of conversation that we've had. And the two things that stand out for me is reading for pleasure is as important for academic success as reading for purposes. So when we read for pleasure, we're kind of imbibing so many comprehension skills that will help us make sense of the work that we do in history, in mathematics, in science. And that's very, very important from our perspective as educators. And the focus on beautiful small class libraries, I think such micro steps can make such a change. Just having a nook in the classroom where children are able to just explore books in their break or between free periods, I think it's really exciting. And we have a question that has come our way, and I think it may be a good time to raise it. Is that we've spent a lot of time talking about how to make reading possible in the classroom, but there are some times when children are not supported from the home as much as they may be at school. What is it that we can do to help parents also foster an ecosystem of reading so that a child is kind of just attacked by the goodness of reading from the teacher, from the school, and nurtured at home?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, and it's beautiful because we understand that parents are partners and they need to be part of this. Make it simple. That's the main thing about, if you really want to help parents to do something, help them to be guilt-free, help them to be shame-free, be encouraging, give them 3 simple things that they can do at home, small chunks of time. We can't climb Mount Everest, we can just think about it. But if we say that, let's just take a short walk down to the corner and then take a little longer and a little longer every day. So I think teachers who hold parents with compassion and with encouragement, I always say that parents are big children. So have frequent parent meetings, share with parents, make them aware how reading for pleasure is connected to child's development. Help them see that it builds value not just in the academics, because that really trips parents off, but that it helps children become all-rounded personalities. And then leave them with that, at the minimum, what are you willing to do? And anything that comes, say that we recommend that parents read to children at least 4 days a week for 20 minutes. This is important. And if parents are willing to do at least 1 day a week for 10 minutes, let's begin there and celebrate them.
Thank you. This was a question raised by Dr. Sangamitra, who's one of our attendees. And another question is, at the beginning you said that reading should start very early on. So children who are between the ages of 3 to class 3, they're the most important audiences for teaching reading. But how would we go about doing that with a child who's so little, who's 3.5 years old, who can and especially reading in a language like English? Can you shed some light on that?
The child is not supposed to read books. The child is supposed to listen to stories. The child is already reading. The child has been reading since the day he was born. The first thing that children read when they are born, if, of course, we are talking about all children born with their eyes, able eyes, but children read their environment. They read their mother's face. They read their father's face. They very quickly pick up expressions of pleasure and expressions of displeasure. They pick up body language. And through that, the first blocks of language are built, because when the child automatically steps into the babbling window and starts making noise, and when 2 syllables mama 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 ma are joined together, mama, and suddenly this lady lights up like a 1,000-watt bulb, the child says, okay, I did something meaningful, I got to do it again, mama. And every time he does mama, only she lights up, but when the child goes papa, the other person lights up. And that's how the child knows what those sounds represent and what is possible. And then, we are wired to learn language. In our neocortex in the front, there is a huge area which is devoted. In fact, just as we are wired to walk at the appropriate time and sit up and roll over and do all those milestones, we are wired to learn language at the time that the way to do it is start reading to them when they are in the womb. Continue to read to them. In fact, read Ulysses to a little baby, because it doesn't matter, right? What matters is your understanding, what you can make meaning of, and how you read, and how you get the children engaged and drawn into the story.
Thank you. We have a question by one of the attendees, which is teachers are critical to modeling reading for children. What competencies are required for a teacher to be a successful role model? And a lot of us here are heads of schools and organizational institutes and training institutes for teachers. What can we do to help them develop such capacities? This is a question by Biswajit. Thanks, Biswajit.
Thank you, Biswajit. Um, Sometimes I think you have to just be very strict. One of the things, of course, we want to encourage. So the same thing that you would do with, for me as a mentor and as a guide in the education space, I'm also, I run a nonprofit where there's a whole team of people who work with children in the after school space to develop a lot of attributes. Reading is one of the pieces of work we do with them. And there's also a school that I'm engaged with in an intense way on an everyday basis. So my clear understanding here is what happens in the staff room will happen in the classroom. So for me, it is imperative that the teachers themselves understand this and make every effort from their side. Once you have the understanding and you're a thinking teacher and you really care to contribute, your conscience will not allow you to not read. So as a school leader, you would like to inspire teachers. You would like to create a structure, which is a cooperative structure where teachers also buy in and they don't feel a pressure, but they understand the importance, and you spend standalone time devoted to reading. Teachers will also like to read things which give them meaning. So if they read literature connected to their work, which will make their work better, pedagogical reading, that's very helpful. And also encourage reading for pleasure and have a club or, different such engagements and activities. Competency. The only competencies teachers can really develop is ability to read aloud well. Because if they work on, making reading aloud well, you can read aloud to any age group. Just read aloud to children, they'll pick up an interest. But it can't be flat reading. So that's the one thing that I would tell stories and read aloud well. Other than that, no competencies, just commitment.
And how do we make teachers into readers, especially when they're dealing with the early years?
I found teachers of early years very cute. They're exactly like their children. They're open, they are eager, they like to play with things. So, if you are a school leader or a coordinator leader, just try it. Just gather them and read stories to them. See what happens.
And in a class, we're often met with children who pick up reading at different speeds and at different abilities. So Srilata, who's one of our panelists, has asked, how do we encourage slow learners to read?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. I think that's a very beautiful question. And one of the first things I would remind you that one is not to make fun, give them space. The rights of a reader belong to those children more than anybody else. I do believe that children who are slow learners, when they meet an adult who sincerely engaged in their development, they give their best. You would be amazed how much they want to learn because something within them sees that there's a gap and they want to cross it. It's just that when they don't get attention, that energy gets channelized, they become disruptive, and there are other issues. So compassion, encouragement, individual time, involve their parents more. And then, of course, within school systems, let's prioritize what is it that we are here for. Are we here for scholastic achievement? Then you will have one kind of timetable and one use of how you want to. I'm not judging it, but I do want to say very strongly that an outlook like that is a very limited outlook for any educational institution. We are here for holistic development of not only the citizen of our country, but our world and planet Earth. And so if we prioritize our timetable to reflect that, you, I'm sure, will make the first priority for creating individual spaces where you can attend to these children.
Yeah, that's a beautiful idea. Thank you. Lippy Mehta, who's one of our other panelists, one of our other attendees, is asking that sometimes what happens in a class or maybe in a home situation as well is that if there's a child who reads a lot and a child who does not, they're constantly kind of compared with each other, and it turns out to be slightly demotivating for children, especially as they, as they grow up. So how can we kind of transform this competition into something more productive and something more something that children would aspire to at their own pace?
Yeah. Again, a great question. This is about parent development. It's about understanding, and it's not just for reading, it's for anything in life. One child does things one way, another does another way. I would still point parents to that book, The Right to Read. It's a wonderful, very wise book. If you read it, if you get your priorities right as a parent, if you can touch what it means to feel compared and then have empathy for the child, that would be very important first step, because there are no quick fix solutions to these. There is to be inner transformation for these kind of things to stop happening. So parental awareness is important. It's a teacher's duty to pick these things up when parents come, in the class with it. They either compare to children in their own home or to children in the classroom. So as a teacher, we want to make parents aware of what happens when we make negative comparisons to other children. But we can always help parents to reframe their language so that they can make the positive comparisons where children can feel more inspired.
And there's a strand of questions, that is similar to each other. So I'll kind of combine them, which is, we've been speaking about children in their early years of education and helping them be hooked to reading. But how do we encourage children in maybe grade 6 to 8, or a child in grade 10 who's
Yeah.
so busy focusing on math and science? How can we make the magic of reading come alive for them? And we have 2 or 3 of our attendees who've asked similar questions.
And I'll give you the similar answer. Read to them. Don't stop. My sons, who didn't take up reading the way I would have wanted them to, today can't get their noses out of books because they finally have an inner search. They understand that this is where their answers, part of their answers can come from here. They're driven. And all because I consistently, repeatedly lived my passion. Walk your talk, treat them like little babies sometimes, happily read to them in class. In fact, when you read some of the research and material that we'd like to share with you after this call, you'll find that for this common sense, there are only, these kind of simple answers for it. But yeah, read aloud to them, talk about what you have read, encourage them to pick up books of their choice. Don't impose. Encourage every small effort that they make. Every small. There is nothing shameful. I still cannot read Shakespeare with the same engagement that some of my friends who were from very, very literature-oriented background can do. I can't. That's where I
And
am.
and what would be, Usha, one of the attendees is asking, what will be your approach to parents who can't read or understand English properly? So, there are parents where children are first generation learners from families who are attending
Yeah.
schools. And just to do a quick time check, we're at our last 5 minutes.
Okay, sure. So maybe we can ask people to stay on for 5 more minutes so we can close well. And this is a beautiful question again. I love it because I have such a passion for the cause of multilingual education for our children, and I have so much sadness in my heart for what has happened to India, making, because we have made English medium a mainstay and an aspiration for our country. I do espouse the cause of bilingual education, and therefore from that perspective, where I'm coming from is all languages are beautiful. All languages bring a wealth of culture to the children, and if the parents are not able to read or speak in English, encourage them to do these activities in their own language with the children. You are here to teach the child English. The parents need not. They need not go into, if they're willing, they're encouraged, they don't have some very big challenges, that's fine. But if you feel parents are getting into a feeling of feeling small, because they don't know English, feeling incompetent and anguished because they are in no position to help them, please be very compassionate, treat them with a lot of kindness, encourage them to be who they really are in the power in their own language, and ask them to pick up speed in their own language if they are not reading.
Thank you. I think, this touches a chord close to a lot of our hearts. And in fact, for a lot of us, it is our grandparents that have told us such incredible stories in our own mother tongues when we were little that opened up our world of imagination in the first place. So yes, reading in any language is beneficial to learning overall. It lights up certain parts of our brain, and I think it's
And our
fascinating.
heart and soul,
And
right?
our heart and soul, yes. um, we've answered and asked more than about 17, 18 questions in the short span of time, and I'm absolutely loving the engagement. And I hope that all of our attendees continue to raise questions, ask questions, visit our social media pages, ask us questions there, and we'll definitely respond soon. And I think
I'm wondering, Aditi, I would feel complete if maybe there were one or two voices we could hear from. I'm not sure, Nikhil, if we'll be able to get that in, but just get a little feel of, what from this is somebody carrying back. So, Nikhil, if you give me a yes for that, then I could frame a question which I can give to people. Okay, yeah. So Nikhil is saying that if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand. And so the question that would make me feel nourished, because I've been with all of you, this is the first time we're doing this webinar. We are not yet in a position where we're able to give a video. So I don't have faces to several of you, but it would nourish me to hear your voice. And what will nourish me is your truth. So here's what I would like to hear. What has this last 1 hour that we have spent together meant for you in your efforts to become a reading teacher, and whether this was useful, and what was something you would have liked more of which we didn't have ready for you? So I'm kind of taking it as a feedback. I also would like you to write it down and make it a short 1 or 2 sentences so we can get maybe 3 or 4 voices in before we close. And otherwise, one person takes up all the time. That will be... So give you 10 seconds to think about it and maybe write it down. What has this last hour meant to you in your journey as somebody who's passionate about reading? What is incomplete? So Nikhil, you can let us know when you're calling upon somebody, and so everybody else will also know that. I think I can see 2 people flashing on. So maybe we'll open the mic up for Dr. Sangamitra.
Good afternoon, Jagriti.
Good afternoon.
It was lovely. The session was awesome. I think in a very few words, I'd like to say it reinforced my belief that reading solves a lot of the English problems that we have with the children these days. So reading, and that helps. As you said, I really agree with you that we don't need to have grammar as a separate, curriculum. If we read well, if we reflect well, then grammar comes automatically in the language, whether we are speaking, whether we are writing. So it was awesome. I'm so glad that it reinforces my belief in the fact that reading needs to be encouraged, and which would help the children to better their language.
Thank you. Is there something that would have made it a better experience for you?
I think this is very good. I mean, yes, always more the better. It's always nice to get more information, more research information, maybe more data on what research is going on around the world in this aspect. Yes.
Okay, so definitely. And we plan to share a docket with everyone on that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jagriti. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
There's one more voice, I think.
Yeah, we don't have an identity here, but somebody who's identified as Lenovo K50A40. Your mic is now open.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm sorry I couldn't register my name. I'm Shobha from Euro School.
Hello, Shobha.
Hi, ma'am. I was just observing and listening to all what you said. I really felt happy that I've registered here. I just felt I was doing the right thing all these years in teaching. With this webinar, I felt I'm on the right track and I'm doing the right thing. We're emphasizing on classroom reading. In fact, a lot of my students enjoy when I read in the class. I felt, am I too laid back in teaching, where I'm still following the old methods? But after seeing this, I felt that it's good someone is there backing up this old custom that we have been following. So it's good being a part. Thank you.
Wonderful. We celebrate you. Lovely.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. I think, is that a wrap?
I just wanted to take a quick minute to thank everybody who made time on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning to come to us and engage so fully, so wholeheartedly. It has doubled my own passion to take reading to the world. I think it's such an undernourished skill. And a big, large, huge round of applause to all our attendees. And just to let you know that if you have any questions that are unanswered, please ask them here on the Q&A piece. Please ask them on our social media profiles, and we'll ensure that you're heard and your questions have been answered. Jagriti, final farewell. Thank you so much to you. You have completely transformed this. You've shown us what 60 minutes can make possible. And such richness from so many corners of our country and from our world. And thank you for engaging us and holding our attention so beautifully.
Thank you for the platform. We're all in it together, right? For the children. That's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
And we hope to see you soon on our next webinar. Thank you. Bye.